Unfortunately, here we are again, and the situation is somehow more disastrous than the last chapter of this circus. When it comes to Claressa Shields, the woman who is supposed to be the face of women's boxing, the heavyweight queen who is supposed to walk into 2026 like an untouchable empire, well, she has now invented something nobody asked for. She has officially launched a brand new lane in modern celebrity gossip, and the only name that fits it is chase culture. That is her contribution to the sport. Not a knockout, not a unified belt, not a Hall of Fame moment, but a fully televised, plane ticket funded, GPS guided pursuit of a married man across state lines. Before we go any deeper into this absolute meltdown that is unfolding in front of our eyes, drop a like, smash the subscribe button, and stay locked in because honestly, you are going to need to be sitting down for this entire breakdown. Trust me, I am being completely serious right now. Because look, after refreshing my phone this morning and seeing that Claressa allegedly boarded a flight, packed a bag, and zoomed straight to New York City to ambush Papoose during a Mother's Day weekend trip with his actual mother, I genuinely had to set my coffee down and stare at a wall for about 20 minutes. I am not exaggerating. I sat there, I blinked, I tried to process it, and the only thing I could think was, this is the most expensive insecurity tour ever booked by an athlete in the modern era. There is no other way to describe it. A grown woman, a heavyweight champion of the world, allegedly bought herself a last-minute ticket, allegedly slipped into a concert section she was never invited to, and allegedly crashed a family outing that was specifically planned around a holiday meant to celebrate somebody's mama. Read that back to yourself one more time. Pause. Now ask yourself, in what universe is that a flex? And listen, I already know there are going to be people in the comments who say I am being too harsh, that she is just a woman in love, that she's fighting for her relationship. I hear you. I hear that argument. But that argument falls apart the second you remember the timeline. Because this is not a woman protecting her marriage. This is not a wife defending her household. This is a third party who allegedly slid into a situation that was already standing, allegedly befriended the wife before turning around and pursuing the husband, and now allegedly cannot sleep at night because the very thing she did to somebody else might be done back to her by karma in real time. That is not a love story. That is a cautionary tale with a championship belt attached to it. And here is what makes the whole picture even cinematic in the worst possible way. The reports floating around are saying that on the very same weekend Claressa was scheduled to be in Atlanta supporting a fighter she just signed to her newly minted promotional banner. She allegedly walked away from her own professional obligation, threw the entire promotional rollout for her own athlete into the garbage, and rerounded the entire weekend just to make sure Papoose was not in a hotel room, a restaurant booth, or a concert seat anywhere near Remy Ma. Let that sink in for a second. She signed a fighter. She put her name and her money behind that fighter. She told the world she was building a stable, and then on the very first opportunity to prove she could be a serious mogul, she ghosted her own promotion to play private investigator in Manhattan. That is not a businesswoman. That is a fan account with a passport. And the bar that everybody on social media keeps repeating, the one that I cannot stop laughing at, is the moment she allegedly hopped off her live stream where she was waving around her medals like a kid showing off field day ribbons, and then within minutes was reportedly on a plane heading north. Imagine the camera roll. 1 second she's flexing belts and trophies. The next second she's in an Uber chasing a man who, by every visible signal in the public eye, does not actually want to live with her, build with her, or marry her. And we are supposed to call this empowerment. We are supposed to call this winning. And listen, I am sorry, that is not winning. That is the most expensive lap around an airport terminal in recent celebrity memory. Now let us talk about Papoose, because this man, and I am going to be completely honest with you, is running the smoothest, quietest, most ruthlessly calculated operation in the entire entertainment business right now, and barely anybody is calling it what it is. Papoose is not the prize. Papoose is not the trophy boyfriend. Papoose is not the soulmate. Papoose is the architect. He has positioned himself as the executive in this entire situation, and Claressa has positioned herself as the investor who keeps writing checks without ever reading the fine print. Every single interview he has done in the last several months, and I do mean every single one has been a quiet demolition of whatever romantic fantasy she just publicly announced. She says they are together. He says they are not living together. She says rings are coming. He says he has never bought a ring in his life. She says marriage. He says he likes being by himself. It is a chess match where one player is moving pieces and the other player has not noticed there is a board. And the audience, the public, the entire gossip ecosystem is watching this in real time. Pause. Tell me, in what world does a man who is allegedly so deeply in love with a woman go on podcast after podcast after podcast and contradict every public statement she has ever made about their relationship? That is not love. That is paperwork. That is a man protecting an exit door while she keeps reinforcing the welcome mat. And if you cannot see that pattern by now, with this many examples stacked on top of each other, then respectfully, you are not paying attention. You are part of the show. And here's where the storyline gets even darker, because the conversation cannot just stop at a Mother's Day weekend ambush. The conversation has to expand outward into the actual machinery, the actual paperwork, the actual long-term consequences, because this is where Claressa is getting absolutely smoked, and nobody around her is brave enough or smart enough to tap her on the shoulder and warn her. The whispers about her Wynn record situation are getting louder every week, and the more you actually study what is reportedly stitched into that paperwork, the more you realize this is not a record deal. This is a financial leash. Allegedly, her boxing earnings are tied to her music contract. Read that sentence again. Her boxing earnings are tied to her music contract. There is no universe in which that arrangement benefits her. There is no scenario where that math works in her favor. Because think about it logically. A boxing career and a rap career have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Nothing. There is no precedent. There is no industry standard. There is no roadmap. When has any executive in the history of combat sports ever walked into a fighter's locker room with a recording contract that also collects a slice of her purse from the ring? The answer is never, until now. Until allegedly this deal. And the $8 million headline that everybody keeps quoting, that beautiful round number that got plastered across every blog and every Instagram caption, that number is not really $8 million. Anybody who has ever read a contract in this industry knows that the headline figure is the bait. The real number is whatever is left after the recoupment, after the advances, after the percentages, after the cross-collateralization, after the marketing budget gets reclassified as an expense. By the time the dust settles, the artist is usually staring at a fraction of the number that was promised. And in this case, with a music career that has reportedly been getting laughed at on streaming platforms more than it has been celebrated, that fraction is going to be brutal. And here's the kicker, the part that should keep her up at night. Allegedly, the $3 million advance she received up front is a loan. It is not a gift. It is not a bonus. It is a loan that has to be earned back through performance. And if the music doesn't perform, and right now the music is not performing, then where do you think the label is going to recoup? They are going to recoup it from the only column that is making money, which is the boxing column. So instead of music subsidizing a fighter's brand, the fighter's brand is going to subsidize the music. That is the trap. That is the trick. That is the architecture. And she walked into it allegedly because a man told her it was a good idea. A man who, by the way, is also allegedly attached to a piece of every fighter she signs to her own stable. So she signs an athlete. The label gets a slice. She makes a song. The label gets a slice. She wins a title. The label gets a slice. There is no exit. There is only intake. And this is where the finesse comparison just refuses to leave my mind, because we have seen this exact movie before. We watched a young, talented, hungry artist get swept up by a label that wrapped him in paperwork tighter than a mummy, and by the time he realized what he had signed, the calendar was already against him, the clock was already against him, and the only way out was a lawsuit that he is still allegedly fighting today. And here's Claressa, walking the exact same hallway, signing the exact same kind of paperwork, listening to the exact same kind of voice telling her she is going to be a mogul, she's going to be a queen, she is going to be the boss of her own empire. And the empire she's building is not hers. The empire she's building is somebody else's portfolio with her name printed on the front of it. Now, circle back to the New York chase because everything connects. Every single piece of this puzzle clicks into the same shape once you zoom out. The reason the rumors are saying she paid for the concert tickets herself, the reason she is allegedly footing the bill for family dinners where the daughter does not even look up from her phone, the reason she is reportedly buying out-of-country vacations and Mother's Day gifts and spot treatments for in-laws she barely knows, is because she is doing the only thing she knows how to do, which is purchase belonging. She is trying to buy a seat at a table that was set before she arrived. And the more she spends, the more isolated she looks at it. Because if you actually have to fund the dinner, fund the trip, fund the concert ticket, and fund the photo opportunity, then you are not a girlfriend, you are a sponsor. You are a corporate check with feelings. And the daughter on her phone at the dinner table allegedly ignoring her the entire night while Claressa live streams herself to prove to the internet she is present, that is the most devastating image in this entire saga. Because that image tells you everything. That image is worth 10,000 interviews. A man in deep conversation with another guest, a daughter scrolling her phone, a girlfriend recording the room so the comment section can confirm she exists in it. Nobody at that table is engaging her. Nobody at that table needs her there. The only person at that table who needs her there is the person who is using her credit card for the bill. And she is broadcasting all of it live as evidence of a relationship she has to keep proving is real. If a relationship has to be proven on a live stream every weekend, it is not a relationship. It is a hostage video with better lighting. Now let us talk about Remy Ma for a second, because the way Remy is moving through this entire situation is frankly a masterclass in not playing the game. She has not crashed a single live stream, she has not booked a single ambush flight, she has not bought a single concert ticket to pop up unannounced. She is allegedly sitting at home, collecting whatever support she's collecting, raising the daughter she shares with this man, and letting the entire spectacle eat itself alive on its own clock. That is not weakness, that is not defeat, that is strategy. Remy looks like she figured out a long time ago that the loudest person in the room is the one losing the fastest, and the quietest person in the room is the one collecting receipts. And while Claressa is funding flights to crash family outings, Remy is allegedly cashing checks, posting nothing, and waiting for the storyline to write itself. And the people in the comments who keep asking, did Remy ever really have him in the first place, are missing the entire point. That question is a distraction. The real question is, does Claressa have him now? And the answer, based on every single piece of public evidence we have seen so far, is no. She has the bill, she has the ticket stub, she has the live stream archive, she has the contract, but the man himself, the actual presence, the actual partnership, the actual home, the actual ring, the actual marriage, none of that is in her hands. None of it. She is paying full price for a subscription she never gets to download. That is the entire transaction distilled down to one painful sentence that nobody around her is willing to say out loud. And this is the part where I want to be really clear, because I am not here to celebrate anybody's misery. I genuinely am not. There is no joy in watching a young athlete burn through her peak years, chasing a relationship that the public can already see is not going to end the way she wants it to end. There is no joy in watching a woman who fought her way out of harder circumstances than most of us can imagine now spend her championship era arguing with strangers online about a man who keeps publicly correcting her relationship status. There is no joy in any of that. But there is a lesson in it. And the lesson is simple. If a relationship requires you to abandon your own promotions, ghost your own fighters, cancel your own business obligations, fly across the country uninvited, and live stream proof of life at family dinners, that relationship is not feeding you. That relationship is auditing you. And the Zeus Network situation only adds another layer of evidence to the pile. The reports going around are saying that her reality show deal with the network was allegedly canceled because the money did not line up, because somebody upstairs wanted a bigger cut, because the math did not feel right. And whether the rumor is fully accurate or only partially accurate, the simple fact that the project is no longer happening tells you everything about the trajectory. Doors that were open a year ago are quietly closing. Endorsement opportunities that should be lining up around a heavyweight champion are not materializing the way they should. And the explanation, the only honest explanation, is that the brand has been polluted. Not by her boxing record, not by her in-ring performance, but by the soap opera that she keeps refusing to step out of, weekend after weekend, live stream after live stream. Because corporations do not sponsor chaos. They do not. They sponsor stability. They sponsor a face that they can put on a billboard without the comment section turning into a courtroom. And right now, every public mention of Claressa Shields drags an entire storyline behind it. Every time her name trends, it trends with 3 other names attached to it. Every time a brand executive types her name into a search bar, the first 10 results are not her last fight, not her last title defense, not her last interview about training camp. The first 10 results are about a flight, a concert, a wife, a husband, a contract, a live stream. That is the brand. That is what is being sold. And no Fortune 500 marketing department is signing off on that. And here is where the long game becomes terrifying for her, because the boxing window is not infinite. It never is. Every fighter, every single one, has a clock ticking quietly in the background. The body has an expiration. The reflexes have an expiration. The marketability has an expiration. And the time she is currently spending on plane tickets, concert ambushes, and live stream evidence collection is time that she is not spending in the gym, not spending on her next fight, not spending on building the kind of legacy that survives the noise. 20 years from now, when somebody types her name into a search engine, the first result should be a knockout. The first result should be a title defense. The first result should be a Hall of Fame induction. But if the current trajectory holds, the first result is going to be a Mother's Day weekend ambush. And that is the actual tragedy here. And the saddest part, the part that genuinely makes me pause, is that the people closest to her, the people who should be pulling her aside and saying, hey, sit this one out, are either profiting from the chaos or scared to interrupt it. Because chaos is monetized now. Every viral live stream is a paycheck. Every comment section is a metric. Every trending hashtag is a data point that gets sold to somebody. The very ecosystem that is supposed to protect her is the ecosystem that is feeding on her. And the more she crashes out in public, the more numbers everybody around her hits, and the less incentive anybody has to whisper the truth in her ear. That is the trap underneath the trap. The contract is the first cage, the audience is the second cage, the relationship is the third cage, and she keeps walking deeper into each one of them with a live stream camera on one hand and a credit card in the other. Now I want to talk about the optics of the concert itself, because the reporting on this is fascinating to me. The story going around is that Papoose allegedly bought tickets for himself and his mother to see a legendary headliner on Mother's Day weekend. A perfectly normal, perfectly wholesome, perfectly defensible plan. And then, allegedly, Claressa discovered the plan, allegedly bought her own ticket to the same show, and allegedly appeared in the same section, turning what was supposed to be a quiet family moment into a public spectacle that the entire internet got to dissect within hours. And the question I keep coming back to is, who does that benefit? Not the mother, not the legendary artist on stage, not the audience members who paid to enjoy the show, not Papoose, who allegedly looked uncomfortable. The only person it benefits is the gossip economy. And the gossip economy does not pay her bills. The gossip economy uses her bills as content. And there is another wrinkle, because some of the reports are now suggesting that she may have actually purchased the tickets herself in the first place as a Mother's Day gift, and then turned around and surprised everybody by showing up anyway. If that is true, and I want to stress that this is allegedly, then we have moved past simple jealousy into something much more elaborate, much more theatrical, much more concerning. That would mean the entire weekend was constructed as a trap, a gift wrapped in surveillance, a present that doubled as a tracking device. And the man receiving the gift had no way of knowing the gift came with strings attached until the strings were already wrapped around his ankles. If that is what happened, then this is not a relationship anymore. This is a long-running performance art piece, and the audience is the only one paying admission. So where does this all land? Where is the actual finish line? And the honest answer is, there is no finish line, because as long as the cameras keep rolling, the storyline will keep generating revenue. And as long as the storyline generates revenue, nobody involved is incentivized to stop it. Papoose gets to look desirable, Remy gets to look untouchable, Claressa gets to look invested, Wynn Records gets to look profitable, the gossip channels get to look informative. The only person who actually loses in the long run is the fighter, because the fighter is the only one in this equation whose value is tied to a body that ages, a window that closes, and a reputation that once tarnished is almost impossible to fully restore. Everybody else gets to walk away when the story ends. She has to live inside the building she helped construct. And I will say this, and I will say it with as much honesty as I can. There is still time. There is still time for her to pause, to step back, to read the paperwork, to hire a real lawyer who is not connected to anybody in this circle, to renegotiate the terms, to focus on the sport that built her name in the first place, to take a year of silence and let the storyline starve. There is still time. The window is closing, but the window is not closed. And if there is any version of this saga that ends with a championship belt instead of a punchline, it begins with her walking away from the noise, not adding more of it. But based on every signal we have seen this past week, that is not the direction she appears to be heading. She appears to be heading deeper. She appears to be doubling down. She appears to be funding the next chapter herself in real time with her own debit card, while the rest of us watch the receipts pile up on a live stream she cannot stop broadcasting. So drop your final thoughts in the comments. Do you think she actually paid for those concert tickets herself? Do you think Remy is sitting back collecting strategically while the spectacle plays out? Do you think Papoose is running the smartest long con in the celebrity ecosystem right now? Or do you think he genuinely believes his own performance? Do you think the Wynn Records paperwork is going to be the thing that finally wakes her up? Or is she already too deep into the contract to climb back out? And the biggest question of all, do you think there is anybody left in her circle brave enough to tell her the truth before the bill comes due? Let me know everything. Light up the comment section. I read every single one. And if you made it all the way to the end of this breakdown, do me the favor of dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and turning on the notification bell, because the next chapter of this story is already loading, and you are not going to want to miss what happens when the receipts start landing. Stay safe, stay sharp, and stay watching, because in this town, the only thing more dangerous than the cameras is what happens when they finally turn off. And that is the only honest way to close this chapter, because every single piece of evidence on the table right now points to the same destination, and the only person who cannot see it clearly is the one standing closest to the wreckage with her hands still gripping the steering wheel, gripped tightly.